Okay, on the way, welcome to this video. We're going to take a look at one of the bigger failures of the U.S. men's national team program in 2021, and that was the failure to qualify for the Olympics. That was a big one. It made things seem really gloomy for everyone in the program because obviously that was like the first real competitive match that was played until the Nations League in a couple months because of the pandemic. So there's a couple of friendlies, but yeah, it wasn't looking too good. A lot of pessimism about the program, especially because of this. And I think a lot of it really did fall on the manager, which was Jason Kreis, and the tactics, which is pretty much Berhalter ball. I mean, it was no different from what you usually see from Greg Berhalter, and it's kind of showed some of the issues that you see, especially like matches like Bosnia, Canada, Panama. Like just the lack of creativity in the midfield was the big thing with all the selection. We'll break down first though, kind of position by position, looking at who was called up. David Ochoa, he had a really good tournament. Of course, he had the mistake versus Honduras in the semifinal, which is the match decided apparently the USA from qualifying. But he saved them throughout the group stage. I remember the first match of the group stage. He was the only reason that the U.S. held on to win because they were absolutely dominated in that match. And yeah, it was not good. He really made up for the terrible center back pairing. There's no chemistry from, I think it was like kind of shuffle between Kessler, Glad, and Mauricio Pineda, and it was not good whatsoever. His shot setting was so good, and he really saved them throughout, and that's the reason why he was called up to the Nations League as a third goalkeeper. Eventually, he actually was part of the winning the tournament for the USA, but then switched to Mexico a bit after. He would have been in competition for the next few cycles for a starting goalkeeper spot. Maybe not this one or the next one, probably the one after, because goalkeepers do have a long lifespan for the most part. Really no hard feelings for him. He did his best. He made a mistake, but he was incredible throughout and really was the whole reason we were probably in that spot in the first place. But yeah, hopefully he has a decent career, whether it's with Mexico, his club career. No hard feelings for him. So. Other player, JT Martinowski, to play a match in the tournament because most of these players were also on preseason, essentially. So that is one thing with all these players who are called up from MLS. And he's had a decent career so far. He's established himself as a starter for San Jose Earthquakes, but probably won't be pushing forward into maybe he'll make a B team Gold Cup roster. We'll see. Matt Freese was third goalkeeper. Now going to defenders, I think the thing here with defenders, especially the fullbacks, we're asked so much of them because Berhalter tactics, no creativity in the midfield, but we have overlapping fullbacks, and pretty much they are asked to be like the big creative players. If you've seen it before, like a lot of times what happens is the ball shuttles between the center back, the fullback, and the midfielders. Nothing creative going forward. So in the end, you have an overlap and just kind of have to decide, oh, am I going to play a cross in? What am I going to do? Try to cut the ball back? It's just a lot of it is put on the fullbacks, and that's what you saw here. I mean, Aaron Herrera did play quite a bit as a fullback. He's a decent MLS level defender. He's played quite a bit for Real Salt Lake, but he isn't a difference maker. He's not very creative, and he was asked to be kind of a creative player because, like I said, no creative in the midfield. You got overlapping fullbacks, and they were asked to make some magic, and they couldn't really do that. So I mean, yeah, just. He got forward. He didn't really have the quality necessary in the final third. It's rumored that he's going to play for Guatemala in the future. He's a starter for Real Salt Lake. He could have a decent career, but he's never going to be a game changer for the U.S. men's national team, and he's pretty far down the fullback pool, and I think he has played some right center back as well, but yeah, if he chooses Guatemala, that would be good for him for his career. So another player who unfortunately made the switch to Mexico, Julian Araujo. He's a player I love. I think He's easily one of the best would have been the best 1v1 defending fullback on the roster for the U.S. men's national team and the player pool in general. He would have been probably the best one because he's a very good defender. He was really one of the few bright spots. And again, he saw a lot of the ball getting forward because he had to do it because we didn't have any creative in the midfielder. And he really was not good in the final third at the moment yet, I felt like, in this tournament, but he made huge improvements with the Galaxy, and that's why I was like, dang, he has a lot of potential from him. As I do get the LA Galaxy games where I live, so I do watch a lot of Galaxy, and he was really good going forward in the end, and he's improved a lot with his final pass. And it's unfortunate because, he did reject a call of the Gold Cup where he would have featured a right back and pretty much been cap-tied. He also did reject some World Cup qualifying call-ups in the end to kind of make his final decision. And he eventually switched to Mexico, debuted for them in a friendly in Chile. And it's a big loss, in my opinion, that he left to Mexico because I think he has a big future on him. And I could certainly push the likes of Scally in Dest in the future, as Yedlin's probably in his last World Cup qualifying cycle. But yeah, Henry Kessler, one of the other center backs called up. He's made headlines for his shit housing ability. He's a decent MLS defender, to be fair, but he just did not look good in this tournament with any of the center backs. None of them look good whatsoever. He did feature recently in the December MLS camp, and I think maybe he'll feature some B-team Gold Cups in the future, but I think that's his ceiling, really, with the men's national team. Mauricio Pineda, another player who made some big mistakes at times. Not very good on the ball. He was bailed out a lot by Ochoa, just like Glad, who was one of the veterans of the squad, being 24 because of the delayed Olympics. So 24-age players were actually technically allowed in this because it was based on the 2020 cutoff. He didn't look like a veteran out there. He looked lost. He's played consistently for RSL since 2016. He thought maybe he'd have some veteran presence, but they're just not. Obviously, playing, I feel like international levels can be much different to MLS level, and that's a big difference sometimes. He didn't look comfortable, and it was also bailed out by David Ochoa. So Sam Vines, he did have some good moments going forward. Like I said, he played on the left, and he was asked to do a lot. And he actually did have a couple assists, I remember. I think it was one or two. And yeah, he featured in the Gold Cup. He's been called up to World Cup qualifying. I think he's someone who's in the conversation. He played in the B-Team Gold Cup quite a bit. And I think he'll be at that level, maybe pushing for a second, third, fourth spot kind of in the depth chart. Don't think he's going to be particularly amazing because I really hope Jonathan Gomez steps up and takes the reins from Anthony Robinson or Joe Scally, because I'm not a bigger Anthony Robinson fan, to be fair. Jackson Yule, one of Berhalter's boys who's played for the Earthquakes for a while. He scored a banger to put the team back in versus Honduras. He's expected to be like the deep-lying playmaker to unlock the defense. I think Berhalter is even referred to as like a quarterback position, but outside the big switches, both in Olympic qualifying Nations Leagues, he's just not good enough dictating play. He can switch the ball, but other than that, like if you've seen, there's so many moments where he just passes the ball back. He has the ability to turn and go forward. He doesn't do it. It's like either back or sideways. To go for the big switch is what he does, and he's just not good enough. He shouldn't be called up again outside of some like camp cupcakes. And basically, Andres Pereira, a player who made the switch from Colombia to the U.S. He's another midfielder who's basically a destroyer who was asked to be a creative player. He played like as an 8 and 6. He played more as an 8, and yeah, he's only 21, but there's so much better midfield options than him. Johnny Cardoso, very big prospect. I think he has a big future ahead of him. Another deep-lying playmaker, but he was also thrown in as like kind of a 6-8 hybrid sometimes. There was just no fluidity in the midfield. And with the lack of chemistry, spacing, the lack of tactics, it just really was not much he could do out there. Tanner Tessman did have some bright moments. I remember he did move to Venezia shortly after this match. And yeah, obviously, yeah. It was... I moved in the summer, a bit after the qualifying, but he really didn't have the opportunity to go forward because he's another player who's kind of been like in between the 6 and 8 because like his athleticism, I feel like, in his height, people feel like he's a 6, but if you actually watch him, he's more of an 8. He has played as 6 a couple times for Venezia. He isn't at that. That's not his position. He's more of an 8, and I think he could push in the United States men's national team picture with some strong performances, at least maybe playing some B-Team Gold Cups and stuff like that. But we have to see him more. I've seen him quite a bit with Nessie. He has some good moments, but he's still pretty raw, I feel like. And Georgi Mihailovic, the Montreal Impact midfielder, struggled in moving around from the midfield to wing. He was the American midfielder with the most assists in MLS. I mean, a lot of players do struggle in certain systems and tactics. I think that's just what it was. He wasn't around the right players to help him succeed. But I mean, if you're calling up players like Roldan, Leggett, Costa from MLS, he should be called up over them. He's actually producing in MLS. It's the big difference. But I do think he'll struggle to break in because there's so much talent at the moment who are playing at a higher level in Europe in the midfield and wing. And yeah. Moving on to Sebastian Salcedo, the Pumas winger struggled, despite the fact that he has had some good form and success with his club, but the attack was poor and he was a part of it. There's really not much you can say. Different coach and tactics different coach and tactics may have made things different, but it's unlikely he breaks in the U.S. men's national team with other wingers in front of him at the moment. There's so many options right now, but Hassani Dotson, he was actually surprised at the tournament. He actually did make some things happen as an 8, but 3 assists and 2 goals for Minnesota United, but still not a difference maker. I doubt he'll see many call-ups in the future unless, again, it's like a B-Team Gold Cup. Another one of the original Berhalter boys, Jonathan Lewis, a pacey winger. energy, pace, and verticality. Of course, Berhalter loves the verticality, even if it comes at the expense of creativity. He also featured in the Gold Cup after. He was awful in Olympic qualifying, and he was awful in the Gold Cup, and he was immediately benched. Thankfully, he should never play the U.S. men's national team again. No reason to. He's also like basically a super sub for the Rapids anyways, so yeah. Now there's Jesus Ferreira, who had some moments in tournament, and I think he would have been better if, again, there were some more creative players around him. He's been seen as like a winger and false nine for the U.S. men's national team. He's seen some minutes recently World Cup qualifying, and he could be a really interesting option as a striker cam if Berhalter ever feels like playing with the 10 instead of dual eights, but that's probably not going to happen. Oh, we'll get to another player who was absolutely terrible in this tournament. Benji Michel, the Orlando City winger, he was out of place clearly, but hey, pace, work rate, merchant, no creativity, but a verticality, baby, verticality. This tournament should be the last time he wears a U.S. men's national team shirt again, unless it's like as a spectator, but definitely not as a player. Sebastian Soto, player who was really hyped up and fortunately has not started out his club career. Current Norwich City striker, he's on loan at Porto B and not really doing much there. Looked to have a really bright future. He tore it up at Real Salt Lake Academy, played well for the Hanover youth squads, but he wanted to move really quickly, and I just feel like he should have tried to get established Hanover first and get some minutes, and even maybe going back to Real Salt Lake, who knows. But he was expected to be a pretty key player in this squad after his big goals in the 2019 U20 World Cup. But his hold-up play was very poor. Made some mistakes that led to goals. I remember one versus Mexico specifically. His off-ball movement, finishing has always been good, but he needs creative players, and there were none. So looking back, I think this Olympic qualifying failure is really on Jason Kreis. I mean, no creative midfielders called up. Preferred to play with a bunch of destroyers. It's not really much different from Berhalter's system in essence, but really the difference is with the U.S. men's national team is at least like McKennie can get forward and score some goals, and AC Musa is fairly creative. I still think we should play with possibly play with a 10, especially if Musa's not getting minutes. Maybe go 6, 8, 10 with Reina as the 10. That would give us a chance to see Wei on the right wing, which he's performed very well at. So, but still, there's so many other players he could have called up that could have made a difference. There's Cole Bassett, Eric Williamson, Jeremy Ebobisse, who were in camp but not chosen for the final roster. Healthy Ulises Yanez would have been so much better than Benji Michel. He was called up to the tournament eventually, and he would have been a very good option on the wing, actual creative player who can make things happen, not a verticality merchant. So, also Cade Cowell, Caden Clark, and Pepe, I think they were 17, 18 at the time, but still he provided a much-needed spark in attack. The original roster, before the tournament was canceled because of the pandemic in 2020, it featured the likes of Mark McKenzie, Brendan Aronson, Richie Ledesma, a creative midfielder, so we got two creative players there, Eric Palmer-Brown, Paxton Paul-McCown, another player who can make things happen as an 8, and Reggie Cannon. I think that team, oh my god, would have easily qualified on paper, I mean, if you look at it now, but who knows back then. In the end, I mean, it was tough because the tournament did fall under a non-FIFA date. Not many European clubs cooperated to let players go, but still, there's so much talent playing domestically at a time that was really overlooked. Even like some guys who weren't playing in Europe could have been called up, like Alex Mendez. He created a player. He shined for the USA U20s. Was at Young Ajax. He really wasn't playing much at the time. He might have been hurt, but another creative player in the midfield who could have made a difference. And that was the big issue in the tournaments. The love for destroyers in the midfield. I just think that's the one issue. Is like now that it's all about pressing, hard pressing, verticality according to Berhalter. Sometimes it's like you just want to run. Who runs around the pitch most best and like wins the ball and then somehow gets the ball into the net with a lack of creativity. Like I don't know. It's just very strange to me. Some of the tactics and ideas from Berhalter, because it's pretty clear at his time in Hamburg he wasn't really seen as a big attacking. He played boring football, and that's a lot of what you see with the U.S. men's national team, honestly. Maybe he's adjusted his tactics slightly, but it was definitely the thing you saw in this tournament. I would love to see like maybe Tab Ramos or someone take the reins of the U23s again. I know he's just been fired from Houston Dynamo, and hopefully he's back to the U.S. men's national team program and gets back involved, because the last US U20s program was a lot of fun to watch. I think that was probably the best football we saw from a youth team in a while. It was the 29 USA U20 youth team, both in the CONCACAF qualifying and the Olympic in the World Cup tournament. Played very good football, and hopefully we see a manager who values more of these creative players in the midfield, because I just remember watching every game, and it was not fun to watch, unfortunately. But that, guys, thank you all for tuning in, though. Hit that like button. I love you. I'll be staying on now, and I'll catch you guys later.